Just say your name, spell your name.
Jennifer, Jennifer, Ziemer, Ziemer.
And just tell us your story.
I guess I'm one of the rare ones. I pulled my children out due to the mask requirement. I felt that it should have been a choice, just given the information with how children are affected by COVID. I have a kindergartner and a second grader. My kindergartner comes home. I had enrolled them originally. They spent 2 months in LPS trying out the mask thing, seeing how it worked, mask breaks, how they adjusted to it. My son came home every day, mask soaking wet, from his tongue, licking it. Sorry. My second grader, I really relate to that other mom, because in the spring, my second grader developed depression, an 8-year-old girl, depression and anxiety from her whole world being interrupted. Thank you. And it's sad to see. And so I was looking forward, just like her, to when school resumed normally, and it didn't. I wanted to try it out and see how it went, and my daughter was miserable, and her anxiety still is high because seeing all the changes, which I understand, we're in unprecedented times, but I'm having to choose between her mental health and her education at this point. And it's not just her. There's other children that it's affecting the same way. Clearly, you pulled from lots of homeschooling parents and you pulled 2 in the same room whose children have been affected mental health-wise from this. And so I opted to pull them out, and remote learning was not an option. To have a child sit 6 days on Zoom, that's unreasonable for a child that's 8 and a child that's 6. Without a dedicated teacher to actively teach them, just for them to have to keep up in a classroom. I mean, what I heard from my 8-year-old in the classroom setting, seeing the teacher, okay, I have to stop, work on this, and direct her attention to the Zoom briefly, and the transition back and forth. Both sets of children are being failed. So we opted to, a week ago, homeschool. And that creates a burden in and of itself. I don't work now. I stay home with them to teach them, throwing myself into something that I wasn't equipped for. I mean, I'm not an idiot. I did 2 years of college, so teaching a second grader and kindergartner, not the most difficult. I really sympathize with her high school. I have a 17-year-old. She moved to go live with her father because that pull in spring of trying to help her with her work and trying to help my first grader at the time, it was just too much. Neither one of them was getting any sort of real dedicated education. And so she opted to move with her dad where she could have that. So we're doing the homeschool thing, and we're using free resources online. There's a great homeschool community here, so they guided us in the direction of what's free. But, if my children were older, that age, we don't have the resources to go out and buy whole new curriculum just to teach my children because of this, this certain time frame that hopefully someday soon is going to be just a distant memory. I couldn't pour $400 or $500 into curriculum or more to teach them. So we're using free resources. Luckily, second and kindergarten, it's fairly easy to do. It's a lot of review. You can print out worksheets and buy workbooks. But, I just wish that there was more options out there. It really feels like my children's education, through no fault of, anybody else's, but it's kind of being held hostage by this virus. And lots of parents feel that way. That's why you've seen over 800 new homeschool applications, because the Zoom is not working. I mean, you can watch a board meeting and see the parents pour in there that the Zoom is not working. So, you know, what this means for the future second grader and a kindergartner, you know, it probably will move forward. I just pray to God that it has less of an impact on my children's mental health being disrupted in their lives, having to be pulled out of that setting through no fault of their own, no fault of anybody's, but, you know, it's...
Thank you. Assume you're ready for questions. You made it very passionate. Did you happen to go to the public school and ask them if you could get some of the same textbook material and stuff that they would have there to take home if they were stayed in the public school?
I did not ask that specific question. I did when I went to the school to notify them that I was withdrawing them. I was provided some packets that we actually use. They're very helpful. They were packets that were put together for the Zoom students, and the principal was very kind and gave us those. But she didn't imply or mention that there was any other kind of extra work or textbooks that could be borrowed or whatnot. So I didn't think to ask that. Nobody's ever mentioned that. It doesn't say that anywhere that that's an option, so it wasn't even something.
Did you contact, I'm sure I think we're going to hear from some homeschool networks that they have a swap. I mean, your kid's done with second grade, you don't need those books anymore. Is there kind of a swap system out there where you can
There might
contact people?
be a
Those
swap.
resources are continue to be used?
There might be a swap. What I've come across is mostly people selling curriculum. You know, it is something you invest in. A lot of these parents invest in it, and so they do want to sell it back to, you know, recoup their money when they're done with it. But I'm sure that is a possibility if you ask the right people or know the right people. So, in my particular case, we're new to Lincoln. We've been in Lincoln a year, so this is, you know, we don't have a huge network of people to go to. So far, I'm reaching out, and they're very kind and responding, but that wasn't something that's easily to come by.
Thank you. Any other questions? Thank you.
Okay, thank you.